What you're obviously looking at is my my Outlook interface. You follow a meeting request form just like you would any other time you're using meeting requests. There's really no difference in the general logic, except for one little button that we've added. So I'm going to put in a person that we'll invite, date it, time, we'll leave the time as it is. We've added this one little button here, as you can see, it's called Conference. So, as you can see, you have the two people here, and also it shows their schedule of events for the time of day that we've selected for this conference to be scheduled. We will allow the scheduling of an event for a person just like you would any other Outlook schedule. Multi-book a person. What you cannot do is multi-book a room. We prevent you from doing that because in reality what we've done is we've taken all the rooms out of the Exchange database and we put them into the myVRM engine. Part of our information, as you can tell, is coming from Outlook Exchange where the databases are maintained for the people. The rooms actually are coming from the myVRM engine. And the myVRM engine is going to control that. Now, one of the reasons why is because you want to be able to do a few things with a room, not just select the room and say, hey, you know, I want to busy out the room. But if you want a video conference, wouldn't you want to have it launched on the bridge as well and have the bridge execute a video conference for you? So by putting it in the myVRM engine, you can actually create an environment that allows the customer to continue to use his normal methodology of scheduling through Outlook, still pick up the engine that we offer you from myVRM to execute video conferences. Now, of course, if it's just a room conference that you want, then there's no electronics. We still are managing that room for you because we have to keep up with all of the rooms themselves, whether the video conference is being used in a conference that's been scheduled or whether the room is just being used in a conference. So we keep up with both. Therefore, you would be able to have a room that had video conferencing in it, scheduled for room only or scheduled for video conferencing, and never have anybody double book that room. We give you the ability to see what the room looks like in the information interface here. We give you the ability to put in digital photography here for people to see what kind of room layout it is. Give you specifics about the rooms. Give you maps. All sorts of information that's important to people when they're trying to schedule something that they may not be familiar with. And say okie dokie, and we will send it. That's as difficult as it is to schedule a video conference. Now, one of the things we're doing here is making sure that the schedule is set in the engine as well as the emails are being sent out. So we've got emails going out all over the place to the appropriate people, and the engine is picking up the configuration of the schedule itself and booking the rooms and making everybody aware of the conference and making the rooms busy themselves.
So when the at this point here, when the conference has been scheduled, what is it that the end user will see? Is it just a default, the Microsoft meeting request from Outlook, or is that template changed as well?
It's a choice that you make. You can have us send an email. I'll show you what one of our emails looks like, or you can also, which would also go out with the meeting request email that normally goes out with Outlook. So you have a choice of turning that on or off. Only Outlook email goes out, that's one way to do it. Outlook email plus our emails, that's the other way to do it. So the point is that nothing else changes. Everything else remains the same. It's just we give you the ability to have more information sent if you wish. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, I accept the successful connection here. And I'll show you one of our emails that come out as well. On the screen here is, this is what one of our emails would look like if we were to send it in.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I saw that earlier. Yeah.
In conjunction, that would be one that would go out in conjunction with the emails that went to Steve, for example. If I turned it on for him to get both the email from Outlook and from myVRM engine, this is the one that would come from the engine.
And that's fully customizable, I take it.
Absolutely. That myVRM logo could be anybody's logo or no logo. You don't have to have one up there if you don't want to. As a matter of fact, we allow you to even customize what this says right here. This information right here, it's all customizable. It's very, very, very flexible. The only thing that doesn't get customized is what's inside of this gray box. This is standard information that we post. Now, the information that's posted in here can vary from one piece of information to the next, but the essence of what's in this gray box is going to stay pretty much the same. It's what's outside of this box that you can edit.
All right. So is that edited in some sort of XML file or something then?
Yeah, there's HTML files that we manage in the myVRM engine that we give you access to as an administrator, and as a user, you can have for your own specific emails that you can have. You can modify the myVRM engine emails for you as the specific user. So there's a great deal of flexibility in that respect.
Yeah, that's good.
So let me show you the engine. This is customizable as well. So this myVRM software for scheduling right here, this logo can be changed to any logo that you wish. This can be either designed around a multi-tenant environment or an enterprise environment. Now, if it's a multi-tenant environment or a multiple organization managed by one installation of myVRM, this might be a service provider's logo that comes in here because everybody would come to a centralized site to log in. But once you put your email address in, now we're getting the information that we need to be sure to put you in the right organization. Is it organization ABC or is it organization DEF? Now, if it's just an enterprise, then obviously you go only into one organization, but you still use your email address and your password to get in. So there's a couple of ways to schedule when you get to the engine as well. You noticed how easy it was to schedule from Outlook. Nothing really changed there as far as that's concerned. We also give you the ability, if the people want to use the web portal instead of the Outlook interface, we give you an Express form. Now, I'm choosing the Express form because I'm an administrator and I have all these profiles and all these feature set that I can play with.
Yeah.
But as an Express user, the only thing they would see would be this three-part conference scheduling engine. They have the ability to put in basic information, which is a title, choose the date. If they want to, they can make it a recurring meeting, which would be daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, like it is in Outlook. Or they could assume the use of a custom environment where we allow you to do random meeting identification for this conference.
Yeah.
Makes it very, very, very flexible, regardless of whether it's a room only or whether it's a video conference. It's up to you how you handle that. We give you the ability to start it right this second. So if you're booking a room and you say, I need the conference room right now, and you want to be sure it's busy for the next 2 hours, you can go in and schedule it and make it busy for the next 2 hours, and it starts right now. If, however, it's a video conference kind of schedule that you're trying to create and you want it to start right now, most of the time somebody who urgently needs a video conference would have to go to a person who's very technically oriented with the bridge and have them assist them, or they would have to be that person. With this, just an administrator can go in and say, I need a video conference right now, and go in and create a video conference from here by simply putting in the basic detail of the title, clicking Start Now, choose a couple of rooms. And the rooms that are going to be displayed, as I said before, are only the rooms that are available at the moment in time when you're asking for the conference to be initiated. Yeah. That way you don't double book any of your rooms. You don't have the ability to because you won't see them. If the room is not visible, let's say I knew that room 510 should be listed and it's not. The reason it's not listed is because it's busy for the moment in time that I've asked for it. So instead of sending out invitations, if this is a meeting that's happening right now, I'm not going to send any invitations because nobody's going to be getting an email. They're going to be going to the video conference rooms, right? So I'll skip the participants and say schedule this meeting. So right now what I've done is scheduled a meeting. I know nothing about video conferencing. I'm dumb as a rock when it comes to video conferencing, as this person is scheduling, that is. Yeah. And I've just now scheduled a very complex video conference immediately to occur without the requirement of a technical person from the MCU services. That's how simple it is for you to schedule a conference.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that.
Now, the same thing could happen if it were for booking a desk or a room or of some sort. If you're going into, you're going to be in Slough next week and you need a conference room or you need an office. You know where you're going. You go in and book that room. It's just as simple as what I just showed you. Instead of booking multiple rooms, you book one room. There's a longer form that allows you more feature sets as far as how to schedule events and what to bring into the event. I'm not going to go over the redundancy of it all, but let's just say that the basic detail page is pretty much the same as the one you saw in the Express form. A little bit more information, but essentially the same. Participants are the same. The rooms are the same. But I'm going to select the rooms for just a moment so I can show you some additional piece. And this might be something that a concierge may use, or a technical person who's helping out doing some scheduling may want to use this interface because it gives you a little bit more flexibility. Also, a person who's not very technically savvy can still use this, of course, because it gives you some feature sets that are not available in the Express form that you might want to use. But for the technical person, let's say a technical person is using this one, he would have this tab, Audio Video Settings tab, exposed. Now, if the person's not technical and they still need to use this long form, then we would not expose that tab. Now, notice I just said that these two rooms I chosen for an audio-video conference, and it's telling me we cannot do it because they don't have any audio equipment in them. So it gives you some information about the types of rooms and prevents you from creating a video conference for a place that doesn't have video conference equipment in it. Let's take those out.
So in the view that we're looking at the moment, are these all mailboxes that are sat on a Microsoft Exchange server, or is it all contained within the engine?
It's all contained within the engine. Having said that, this becomes a little bit more complex than what we were talking about. There's three ways that you can get to the myVRM engine. One is through the Outlook plugin that I showed you at first. One is through the web interface. Another is through Outlook, but the way we do it is by actually having Exchange through Exchange Web Services calls. So we would have an Exchange environment set up. We would have the Exchange Web Services server sitting there communicating between Exchange and the myVRM engine. Now, when we do that, we become a slave to the Exchange engine itself, even though we have duplicated, meaning that we left all the endpoints in the Exchange server that were already there. We will also have that information in the myVRM engine, so that when you create a conference in Exchange, it tells us a conference has been created for these three rooms, for example. We now are going to still launch that video conference call just like I told you we would launch it for the Outlook plugin or for the web interface. We're going to launch the same thing, except Exchange is actually controlling everything. We become a slave to Exchange. Therefore, you would not make any kind of changes to a conference inside of the web interface if we're a slave only. There's a last feature that's available, which is round trip, we call it, which means that we have bidirectional communication with Exchange that would allow you to do the changes in the web interface on conferences, and that interface send information back to the Exchange server and post that information on the conference that was scheduled in Exchange itself.
Yeah.
So there's actually a total of four, one of which is just a third one with two different feature sets built in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's very, very good. A lot of customization. Yes, I don't think I've seen anything quite this flexible.
Well, what we're trying to show you is the flexibility of it without showing you that it's complex, because the complexity really is kind of hidden behind the covers. It's just we're giving you a little bit more feature sets to deal with as we move along from the structure. This audio video settings page allows a technician to go in and, for example, if you notice right here, I want to expose it here a little bit more here by taking off the defaults. This allows a person who has a little bit of knowledge about the technical aspect of the conference. As I said, this does not have to be exposed to just general users. This is going to be the kind of thing that a technical guy would use. Yeah. But you notice I have it says select MCU right here. Yeah. We have two different bridges defined. One of these endpoints is defined to connect to a Codian bridge. That's just the route that it would take if you left it as default. If you left the conference as a default, this actually we would post a conference on both the Codian bridge and on the Polycom bridge. We would post this same conference. On the Codian bridge, there would be one interface in the conference, and on the Polycom bridge, there would be two interfaces on the conference. But what we do behind the scenes is actually bring up another interface on both of the bridges. One bridge will be the caller, the other bridge will be the callee. So we're having one bridge call the other in a simple cascade connection between the two bridges. No one has to do anything to make that happen. All you have to do is do exactly what's written on this page right here. One of the interfaces or more interfaces on one bridge, one or more interfaces on the other bridge. We magically, so to speak, do the connection between the two bridges. No intervention required.
Sorry, how does the VRM engine initiate the call? Is there some sort of API in the background that's doing that?
That's correct. What we use for multi-point is API calls directly to the bridge. So you would have we have a section in the setup of the system when we go over here to the setup that we build MCUs. So we actually put in the information about the MCU, the name of the MCU, the administrator login privileges for login and password, the IP address of the administration port, the IP address of the communication ports. All that information is built into the system. And when we get a conference like this and we're launching the information over to the bridge, we're using API calls from us to communicate to the bridge. This is a conference. We post that conference on the bridge just as if we were an administrator communicating to the bridge via the management tools.
Yeah, it's very good. Very clever.
We also give you the ability, besides all the basic stuff that we've talked about, we give you the ability in this longer form to select for adding equipment to your room for your conference. So let's say you have a conference that the room doesn't have a digital projector in it, and you have to have one brought in. You can schedule to have that brought in by selecting for a work order. Select AV right here. By selecting that work order right there, you would be able to go in and say, I want for room 123, I want to have a digital projector delivered for this conference. When the conference is submitted, an email is sent to the person who's responsible for that AV equipment. And that person receives the email saying, on this date and time, this room needs to have this piece of equipment. Please deliver it. And they're able to communicate back and forth between the host and the person that's responsible. Same thing for catering. You can have food brought in the same way that you schedule to have equipment brought in. And housekeeping does two things. Housekeeping allows you to ask for the room to be cleaned up, but it also allows you something else. In each one of the room profiles, we give you the ability to manipulate the information about how the room is set up. So we give you the permission to add digital photography or JPEG drawings or something of that nature of how the room looks. So if the room is just a room that has a table and a bunch of chairs and it doesn't get changed, then you probably will have one photograph of that room so that people can see what the room looks like. And that's probably all. But if you have a room that's really kind of just a big square or rectangle, and you have the ability to set that room up in various different formats, like a square, a horseshoe, a circle, and things like that. Then you could put those different photographs of the room. When you come to the schedule and you want to change the way that room looks by using the work order under housekeeping, you actually will send a message to that person that's responsible for setting up that room, just like you did for AV and for catering. You would send an email to them saying this room needs to be set up in this format on this date and time. Additional options page. This page allows you to put in some customized features. We've put in a few things just to kind of make it friendly. But this really allows you to have 10 fields within here that you don't see right now, of which we've used a few of, just to give you an idea of what they may look like, that you can put in, for example, conference codes. So you may want to have a bill back to a particular project for this conference. Then you would put in the series of codes that go for this project to be billed to. And by using our reporting structure, you'd be able to create a bill from the reports. So there's 10 fields that you can build your own. They're totally customizable. We give you the interface in the system to build them, and they will be exposed here. Some of those may be required fields, so you can set them up so that somebody has to fill it out before they can move on and submit. Others may not have to be. In this particular case, there are none of them that have to be filled in. The last thing you do, since this is a little bit longer form, you're going to want to make sure that you made everything correct, so you get a chance to preview everything, date and time, any recurrences, room names and all that stuff, all the information, as well as select whether you want to send out reminders. We have 4 different reminder triggers, and you can choose to use them in any format that you want to, in any combination. 1 week ahead of time, 1 day ahead of time, 1 week ahead of time, and 15 minutes ahead of time. And you can choose any of those 4 that you wish to be a time in which you send out a reminder about the conference to the participants. Submit the conference, and we've done the long way around. Much more flexibility, much more options available to you. The same thing that we did starting out at Outlook. Now, had this been a recurring conference, what would happen is the fact that the conference, the initial date of the conference, those rooms are going to be exposed. If you recall about the several times I've gone over the rooms that are displayed are the rooms that are available on that moment in time. That is for the initial day when we're using a recurring conference pattern. So what happened when I was doing the submit just then, if that had been a recurring conference, we would actually have gone through the system and looked for every one of the days that I chose that conference to be defined. We would look to see if there's a conflict. If there was a conflict, instead of stopping you saying you can't go forward, we actually give you a new screen to say these are the rooms that are in conflict, and allow you to go to each one of those dates and change whatever's wrong. You can change the date of the conference, move it to a different date if you want to. You can change the time of the conference if you want to. We also tell you which room is in conflict.
Conflict resolution window then almost.
That's right. And we even allow you to change the room if you want to, the date if you want to, the time if you want to. Whatever you want to do to bring the conflict out of conflict into a solution, we allow you to do that. Once you finish that and do submit, then you're finished. Everything's ready to go. Just to kind of give you an idea about how the hardware sets up, I'll show you the MCUs that we were talking about just a moment ago now that we've created a conference. You can have multiple MCUs from the same vendor or multiple MCUs from multiple vendors. We don't care because we identify the MCU itself and communicate using the specific API for that particular vendor. Now, you noticed I had a Codian and an RMX in the same conference. That's going to work properly because we're telling the Codian in Codian language, this is your conference and this is how we want you to execute. And we're telling RMX in its language the same thing. Just kind of open this up to let you see what we've got going here. It's fairly simplistic when you think about the information that we're asking you for. And it's very complex on the back end after we get that information of all the things that we do with it. The endpoints, let's talk about those for just a couple of minutes. Give you an idea of the flexibility that we offer you for the endpoints. Remember I showed you how you could change the bridge identification when we had the Codian and the RMX? Well, you also can change the endpoint itself. We give you the ability to have up to 5 different profiles for each endpoint. Now, the profile may be everything exactly the same except for one difference right here where it says dial in. Now, what would happen if I had the dial in profile? That would mean that when that conference was created, the MCU would be told this endpoint is going to dial into the bridge. So, therefore, all the bridge is really going to do is create a port ready to accept a call.
Yeah, sure.
Well, maybe the next time that I create a conference, I might want that endpoint to be dialed in. I'm sorry, to be dialed out from the bridge. So
well, that'd be the whole point, really, wouldn't it? Doing it that way.
That's right. So you see, you have the ability to select when you go back to that one page I showed you. You have the ability to select which one of the profiles you want to be executed on the conference, and you can change them anytime you want to. Now, we marry an endpoint to a room, so the endpoints are defined, and then the rooms are defined. And I'll show you real quickly how that kind of glues together. The room has a set of profiles all their own, pieces of information that are important to the room itself. But scrolling on down here, here's where we would assign the endpoint to the room.
Oh, right, I see.
And that's how we make them logically connected.
Yeah.
Once we do that and submit it, then that room has the ability to be scheduled for a video conference or a room conference. It's your choice how you use it, but it never will be duplicated as far as its use at any one moment in time. Have you got any questions regarding what we've gone over or something I may not have gone over?
I've actually seen a lot more than I was expecting to see. I didn't realise that you could go as far as linking physical endpoints to rooms and then schedule bridges to call out to those rooms. That's very interesting, actually.
Our objective is to be able to create a conference as simply as possible in any kind of format that you normally would be required to create it. As a matter of fact, if you want us to, there's one of the features that we allow you to use is a point-to-point conference that is actually creating a conference for 2 endpoints without the use of a bridge. We literally go out and touch one of the endpoints with telnet or API commands, depending on the endpoint, and tell that endpoint to dial another endpoint directly.
Yes, it's good. Yeah, it's very powerful tool.
Yes, absolutely.